TYT Investigates has been breaking story after story about Pete Buttigieg's decision to demote the town's very first African-American police chief, a man by the name of Darryl Boykins. Now, at first, he tried to pressure Boykins to resign, but he refused to do so, and he was later demoted. Now, that has led to an investigation by our very own Jonathan Larson into the secret police recordings where various members of the police department in South Bend, Indiana, were saying racist things about black people in general, but also about the police chief, Darryl Boykins. Now, there is an investigation possibly happening within the town as a result of Jonathan Larson's reporting. The attorney for the South Bend Common Council will subpoena witnesses in the case, possibly including Buttigieg himself. So let me give you the details on what's going on. And I also want to note that initially there was the idea of simply verifying TYT's reporting on the matter, but it looks like the plan to do that is less likely. They are likely to do a full-blown lawsuit to figure out what's going on.
So let me step in to make a couple of things clear, because I know that since it's about a local story in South Bend, a lot of you are unfamiliar with it and it can get a little confusing. So first of all, how racist were the tapes? Well, we have confirmed that one of the quotes in the conversations was, "It's going to be a fun time when all white people are in charge." And so in the tapes, in an earlier story that Jonathan Larson broke for TYT Investigates, the racist police, and yes, from the conversations, they are very clearly racist. That's not the only racist reference in the tapes. They talk about how they have access to Pete Buttigieg's donors. This is before his election. They say if he wins, and they call him an effing pipsqueak. So you can say, hey, Buttigieg can say, look, I'm not sure they were big fans of mine, but the police believe that they had, some members of the police believe that they had access to Pete Buttigieg's donors, and they were talking to one another, not knowing that they were recorded, saying, don't worry, Buttigieg's donors will tell him to fire Boykins. And now what we do know is after those conversations, Buttigieg wins, and he does in fact go after Boykins.
Yes,
and he goes after also anyone who listened to the tapes, including Karen DePaepe, who's another officer involved. Buttigieg fires her for even listening to the tapes and talking to anybody about it.
So she was specifically the communications director for the department. And the reason why she was listening in on the tapes is because they were having technical issues with the recording devices that they had in the department. And as she was listening to it, trying to troubleshoot and figure out what was going on, that was when she came across the racist statements made by police in the South Bend Police Department.
I want to give you one more important detail on that before we give you the updates on why now the Common Council of South Bend, which is like the legislature of South Bend, they've been involved in a lawsuit with the mayor for a long time. Now Buttigieg has now dropped out of that lawsuit, and it's the racist cops that, I'm sorry, some of the cops that happen to care about it, having nothing to do with race, continue the suit to make sure nobody ever finds out what was said on those tapes. But as we told you, we've already found out. And that's why the Common Council is acting, quoting our reporting on it. Anyway, when DePaepe was a civilian police staffer, she listened to the tapes, and Buttigieg said, well, I had to fire her because of the Federal Wiretapping Act, and that I was afraid that federal prosecutors were going to say that was illegal and wrong. Well, good news, federal prosecutors did look into it all the way back in 2012 and decided that it did not violate the Federal Wiretapping Act, and they took no action whatsoever. So that justification was shot down 7 years ago. But to this day, all the people involved, including Buttigieg, says, oh my God, Federal Wiretapping Act. That's why I had to get rid of everyone who listened to the tapes. So that is a very, very poor excuse for getting rid of people who listened to those racist tapes that they desperately didn't want going out. Now you see the situation has gotten really heated because now 7 years later, they still have not released the tapes. The Common Council, that is the legislature of South Bend, still wants the tapes. And now they're thinking about even subpoenaing their own mayor to say, for God's sake, what's on the tapes? By the way, his lawyers already know what's on the tapes, Buttigieg's. He says, my tapes, I don't want to listen to them. I mean, Federal Wiretapping Act. Well, you guys have asked for the material in it, and you talked about it in the context of the Karen DePaepe lawsuit. She of course sued because she was totally wrongly fired and she's such a good staffer in that case to have done her job exactly right. They settle for apparently a decent sum. And you know when they settled? Right before Buttigieg was supposed to go in for a deposition. They're like, oh yeah, I mean, maybe it was a wrong firing. Sure, let's settle. And then they give her a number to try to quiet her down. So now, today, what the Common Council is doing in order to try to finally get that information.
Yeah, so look, the attorney for the council, Bob Palmer, said in its suit, who represents the council in its suit, said on Tuesday that he planned to present the subpoena option to the council during a closed door meeting, right? So the council still needs to make a decision about how they want to move forward. And right now, it's not entirely clear, but just based on my read of the story, it does appear that they're leaning toward doing a full-blown lawsuit. Here are the full options, okay? Dropping the suit and instead subpoenaing witnesses to verify TYT's reporting, putting the litigation on hold for a short period while seeing what can be verified, and authorizing subpoenas to go beyond the scope of TYT's reporting, which, to be quite honest with you, I think the third option is the right option if you're really looking for justice in this case. Now, City Council member John Vord told the Tribune last week that he thought no one in an earlier executive session objected to dropping the suit if TYT's reporting could be corroborated by asking DePaepe to verify TYT's reporting. Now, Jonathan Larson spoke to the Hills Rising about this in a little more detail. Let's go to the clip.
The subpoena is essentially to determine whether or not independent witnesses, beginning with DePaepe, would verify the authenticity of the documents that we've reported on. And the way this works is there's an attorney, a guy named Bob Palmer, who's working for the city council in South Bend, and he has, the council has been discussing our reporting since it came out. And one of the options they're looking at is potentially dropping the suit entirely and just relying on TYT's, our reporting, in terms of deciding how to move forward. Some people are against that, some people favor that. But the reason, ironically, the reason for doing that would be that they could save themselves legal costs by just subpoenaing people, having them come into court and not asking them, so what's on the tapes, but asking them, is this report accurate? Are these documents legitimate, real, authentic documents?
So the idea behind just confirming TYT's reporting is, hey, at least we get to save some money rather than doing a lawsuit here. Now, 2 of the city's 9 common council members told TYT they would not oppose subpoenaing Buttigieg and others in this case. Council President Tim Scott released a statement the same day saying the council is, quote, concerned with the decisions and processes by which Buttigieg demoted Boykins and fired DePaepe. Scott's statement, responding to a South Bend Tribune editorial opposed to dropping the suit, also suggested that nothing is to be gained by pursuing the suit for another 3 years if the final result is nothing more than verification of the accuracy of the Young Turks stories.
I want to give you the significance of that. He's saying basically, look, the Young Turks already uncovered what was in the tapes, and it is terribly damaging. Now, I want to give you the national picture here. So it's not about the national politics of as it relates to Pete Buttigieg. So we'll get to that in a second. But African Americans throughout the country have been told for decades, in reality, centuries in this country, you're lying when you say the police abuse you. You're lying when you say the police are racist. You're making it up. You're hallucinating. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true. They're told over and over again.
It's the oppression Olympics, which I've heard people say.
Yeah. Oh, you want to be victims, they say. Now the reality is, as we discovered in the tapes, it is true. It is true. Those cops were racist. They couldn't wait for white people to get back in charge. Jonathan's reporting is dispassionate. You see all the detailed quotes, documents, and all the different sources that he has. I am passionate about it because I can't stand it that for all of this time, almost every African American in the country say the cops appear to be against us. And everyone in authority, mayors, oftentimes journalists in the media, the cops certainly go, no, you're making it up. And then when you say, all right, well then let's see what's in the tapes, they go, no way, we're not gonna let you know what's in those tapes. Gee, I wonder why. So it was excellent reporting by Larson that broke this story. Look, in fact, I'll quote the president of the Common Council, Tim Scott, who Anna referred to here, a little bit more at length. He mentions the Young Turks reporting 7 times in his letter talking about this issue that he just put out. He said the latest journalist investigation by the media group, the Young Turks, has delved deeper with more information and insight than any journalist or media group has done in the past 7 years.
I have to interrupt you. You guys did that. You guys did that. You guys funded that. So I just want to say thank you, because these are the types of stories that your work funded. So thank you. Go ahead.
He said the Young Turks have brought to this Common Council information it has had no legal way to see before. I'm going to double down on what Anna said. So Jonathan Larson did wonderful, amazing reporting here to get sources, to get documents, to get all the different things he did in more than half a dozen reports. You should go to tyt.com to check it out. But guys, it was also you. If we hadn't raised money from the audience, and so look, I know that other folks don't care about that, but I care about it. You guys made this great reporting possible. And it isn't about Larson, it isn't about Buttigieg, it isn't about South Bend. It's what it uncovers about the whole country. You were right, you were right. They constantly abuse you and then hide all the evidence of their abuse. More from Tim Scott. He said, the Tribune asked what has changed, and he continues, it should be obvious to anyone that the Young Turks has for the first time revealed documents that could independently establish what is on the recordings without the need to actually listen to the recordings. This Common Council owes the city of South Bend and its residents the duty to investigate and to attempt to verify what the Young Turks has brought to light. You brought that to light. So I love that we do this show together and that you guys funded our investigative reporting. So now, back to the Common Council. So that's the president of the Common Council saying, we've got to figure out what was going on, but thank God we know more because of the tapes. I want to read you another councilman's comments. Here's Jake Teshka. He is a sole Republican there, but he says, look, I don't want to get involved in presidential politics. And remember, Buttigieg is fairly conservative. So I don't know to what degree the Republicans like him, or they'll probably get a much more progressive mayor if in South Bend, because it's a Democratic city, if it wasn't for Buttigieg. But so I don't know his political motivations. He says he doesn't want to get involved in that politics. But he said this, quote, the bigger picture is, why would the Buttigieg administration spend millions of dollars to protect a couple of rogue cops using the N-word if that's all it was, right? And so I think that's where the suspicions of a lot of folks in South Bend have been raised. If I'm the mayor of South Bend, you're the mayor of South Bend, and somebody says, hey, look, man, there's awfully racist things in these tapes. Would you fire the black police chief and then turn it into a demotion? Would you fire the people who listen to the tapes? Or would you fire the people in the tapes? Or would you at least do an investigation of the people in the tapes? No, no investigation. And the whole thing has been buried under litigation. Tim Scott, in his letter, the president of the Common Council, says, what are you blaming us for the litigation for? The mayor's the one that keeps fighting it. Now, finally, he's dropped out of the lawsuit, but 83% of the costs were because of the mayor's office. Just release the tapes. There is no federal wiretapping act issue at all. That was dismissed 7 years ago. It's a flimsy excuse. Release the tapes and you don't have any problems. So if it was just the cops, why does Buttigieg care? Unless one theory is it was his donors and he did listen to them. I don't know, but Buttigieg has to answer those questions. The reporting is clear about what's in the tapes.
And I want to just close this by mentioning Bob Palmer again. Again, he is the attorney for the Common Council in South Bend. He was quoted in the TYT Investigates report as saying, the council has decided to try to find out what happened in the police department that caused the demotion and the firing. And if I can find the answer to that, and it makes Mayor Pete look like the genius that some people think he is, more power to them. Palmer continued, citing an epithet one officer on the tapes used about Buttigieg, saying, quote, if my doing my job leads people to believe that he's an effing pipsqueak, like somebody said, that's fine too. This is not aimed at him.
So guys, understand what he's saying. So first of all, the pipsqueak comment is made by the cops against Buttigieg. So that would, in a sense, be exculpatory of Buttigieg. And what the attorney there is saying for the Common Council is, look, let's find out what's in the tapes, and maybe it clears Buttigieg. Maybe he was right all along. Maybe there is a wiretapping act issue, although I can't possibly see it, and no one can make any case for it. Maybe in the tapes they continue to say, oh, Buttigieg is not in on it. Okay, then let's go after the cops. What do you got right now? What are we having a conversation about Buttigieg if he didn't do it, if he wasn't involved in any way? Well, we know he was involved because he actually did demote Boykins and he did fire DePaepe, but maybe he has a good reason for that. But right now, his campaign does not deny any of what we've reported that was said in the tapes. But overall, they remain fairly silent about it. Why? Because the New York Times didn't ask them. So, the rest of the journalists, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing. It was one guy. We had no idea what we were gonna get. He had no idea what he was gonna get. He went to South Bend and uncovered all of this. Imagine if the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, and all the other media organizations actually cared to investigate all of the presidential candidates instead of only one of them. Okay, so, or a couple of them to be fair. And a lot of this is the obsession, not with politics and who's progressive and who's moderate or conservative. It's who's winning right now, who's leading.
The horse race.
The horse race, what's going on? Oh my God, for God's sake. It turns out, I mean, look, I wanna give credit to Larson, he did a wonderful job. But if one guy can do it, maybe it wasn't that hard. Maybe the rest of you guys should also do some journalism. I know that sounds harsh, right? 7 years these tapes have been sitting there uncovered until Larson found out what was in them.
Yeah.
7 years. Yes, African American community in South Bend, you were right. You were right all along. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.